Well, welcome to the 700 Club. The Ukrainians have won the fight for their capital city of Kyiv. Now Russian troops are gathering to attack the east in what's expected to be the biggest battle of the war.
President Putin is doubling down on his brutality, appointing the Butcher of Syria as his new military commander. Dale Hurd begins our coverage.
Having failed to take the capital of Kyiv, Russian forces are preparing for what could be a major showdown with Ukrainian forces in the east. New satellite images show a massive military convoy of tanks, artillery, and other vehicles 8 miles long, now heading toward the nation's second largest city, Kharkiv, already partially leveled after weeks of Russian shelling. It's Vladimir Putin's Plan B, after his forces were repulsed from the capital.
The Russians lost and the Ukrainians won the battle for Kyiv. Kyiv stands despite Russia's effort to conquer the capital city of their neighbor.
A sign of the Russian defeat at Kyiv is Vladimir Putin's appointment of a new commander in Ukraine, General Alexander Dvornikov, notorious for leading Russia's brutal campaign in Syria in 2015. Retired General David Petraeus says Dvornikov is known as the Butcher of Syria.
The hallmark of the Russian forces so far has been indiscipline, not discipline. It has been violation of the Geneva Convention and the law of land warfare and so forth.
In a show of solidarity over the weekend, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson walked the streets of Kyiv with Ukrainian President Zelensky. The White House says there's no plan for Joe Biden to visit. According to the UN, more than 10 million Ukrainians have fled their homes since the Russian invasion began. 1/4 of them are now in Poland. CBN News reporter Wendy Griffith has the latest from the Polish border.
The faces are many. The stories heartbreaking. But Ukrainians from all walks of life keep pouring over the border into Poland, hoping to find a peaceful place to wait out the war that's ravaging their country.
Today here at the border, it's been raining pretty much all day, and people have been coming here to the Operation Blessing tent to get warm and something hot to drink. Come inside and I'll show you.
Oksana, her 13-year-old son and disabled father, arrived at the border in the pouring rain after fleeing Donetsk, a city in eastern Ukraine, now considered a main target of Russia's military. Her 21-year-old son and husband stayed in Ukraine to defend their country.
It's really hard, and I'm afraid about them. I'm really, really worried about them.
Dennis, a 40-year-old single dad, fled Kharkiv, another area hit hard by Russian shelling. After living in his basement for a month, he's been raising his son alone since his wife died a year and a half ago.
It was too dangerous to go outside because there were constant bombing. So, of course, it was really hard, but somehow we felt protected.
Although he arrived at the Operation Blessing tent cold, wet, and hungry, Dennis left full and dry thanks to a new coat, plus a brand new suitcase to put his belongings in. And that crying baby, smiling and content after being rocked to sleep by an Operation Blessing volunteer. After the sounds of war started giving her 3 young sons nightmares, Marina, also from eastern Ukraine, decided to flee as well, leaving behind an older son and husband to defend the homeland.
Marina, tell me why you left your town.
The Russians were bombing. It was war. It was really horrible.
Do you know where you'll stay tonight?
We don't know exactly where we are staying, but we are relying on volunteers to help us. We don't want to go back to Ukraine right now.
Oksana, Dennis, and Marina were also happy to receive prayer.
Amen.
And thankful that someone like Operation Blessing was there in their time of need. Wendy Griffith, CBN News, on the Polish-Ukrainian border.
If you want to be there for these refugees in their time of need, it's real simple. All you have to do is pick up the phone and say, I want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Just put Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line of the check. You can text us, OB Crisis, text OB Crisis to 71777, or you can go to cbn.com. Be part of helping those refugees in their time of need. They're literally leaving with nothing. They have just the clothes on their backs and a few possessions, to see them through. They have no way of making any income on the Polish side of that border. And we want to help them. We want to provide food. We want to provide water. We want to provide shelter for them. And we're doing it in your name when you give. So give now. 1-800-700-7000. In other news, Israeli defense forces are striking back against a recent wave of terror. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That is right, Gordon. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett announced Israel is going on the offensive after 4 attacks killed 14 Israelis. Soldiers from the Israel Defense Forces carried out operations in the West Bank town of Jenin and surrounding areas over the weekend. The IDF killed 1 Palestinian militant and shot 2 brothers of the terrorists who killed 3 people last week in Tel Aviv. In the city of Nablus, about 100 Palestinians attacked a Jewish holy site, Joseph's Tomb, revered by Jews who believe the biblical patriarch is buried there. The mob damaged and set fire to the site before being dispersed by security forces. Well, turning to our economy here at home, and the majority of Americans who believe it's in bad shape. In a recent CBS News poll, 63% rated the economy as bad. 86% blamed inflation. 66% said higher prices have been a hardship on them and their families. This as economic experts warn a recession may be on the horizon, with Bank of America analysts predicting an economic slowdown. On NBC's Meet the Press, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers said historic indicators do point to a recession.
The painful fact, though, is that historically, when we've had inflation above 4 and we've had unemployment below 4, essentially always since World War II, that's been followed by a recession within the next 2 years.
Recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of the economy shrinking. Well, as Americans suffer the pressure of high pump prices, churches across the country are partnering with gas stations to help ease the burden, providing free or discounted gas. And as Charlene Aaron reports, one pastor also sees it as a way to accelerate the gospel.
I believe that the life of the Christian should be a life that's overflowing with compassion.
And Pastor Brian Karn of Kingdom City Church in Charlotte put his compassion on display by hosting this Gas on God event for members of his community. He told CBN's Prayer Link that while his church's gas outreach is ongoing, this year it's even more significant, with gas prices reaching record highs.
We were just faithfully doing it over the last couple of years, and it actually came in handy this year in a powerful ways.
More than 300 people received free gas through the church's partnership with a local mobile gas station. The ministry also distributed grocery vouchers and gift cards, as well as drive-up prayer.
People were actually running out of gas coming to the gas station, and we were having to push their cars to the gas station.
Members of Kingdom City Church pumped gas for drivers so they could sit in their cars, while also being filled with ministry and prayer.
I drove about 25 minutes to get over here for this tank of gas. Everyone was pleasant, and I just really appreciate everything you guys have done for me and everyone out here today.
Pastor Karn personally financed the entire event, donating $10,000 for the outreach.
It was a seed for me into the lives of people all over the city of Charlotte, so that I can let them know that, so that God could use me as a conduit to let them know that God cares about your tank as much as he cares about your pocket or your heart.
Meanwhile, with high prices on everything from fuel to food, Pastor Karn says now is an opportunity for the church to share the gospel like never before.
To be able to use that as a tool to get people saved, to pray for people, get people healed and delivered. You know, Jesus fed them first and then he ministered to them. So that was our fish and the loaves. It was gas.
Changing lives in the process.
some people crying, some people weeping, some people couldn't believe it. And, the result was people came to church. Lives were touched. People's lives were changed.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
In Kingdom City and other churches putting a whole new spin on the idea of convenience. Gordon?
Well, they're definitely getting out into the marketplace, which is exactly what the disciples did. They went to the marketplaces in order to preach the gospel. And here we are in 2022, we're going to the gas marketplace and saying, here, we understand the hard times. We understand the price of gas has gone way up. We want to help you. That's the church being the church. It's not just a building. It's an outreach to the community, an outreach to the marketplace.